Phil Aldridge, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much, Tracy. What a great introduction. I think I can probably go now. You've said everything.
What's one belief about success you had early on that you've now completely realised you've changed your mind about?
Profit isn't everything. I think when you're profit driven, you don't necessarily do the right things.
Well, what's the moment in your business journey that completely changed how you lead?
I had a senior engineer working for me. He was at the top of the sort of senior engineer pay scale, and the next position was assistant manager. So we made him an assistant manager. After about 6 months, I called him in and I said, look, it's not really working. I don't see that you're managing the people. And he says, you didn't give me any tools. You didn't explain to me how to manage. He says, I'm an engineer. I didn't ask for it.
Yeah.
Wow, he's so right.
Like you've said, having those, things that you do with your partner.
And I think the other aspect of it is don't take everything home with you as well. Don't go home and just brain dump all your problems to your partner.
Hello and welcome to the Real Biz Life Chronicles, where we discuss all things business, branding and life from the Horizon Digital podcast recording studio here in Perth. I'm your host, Tracy Fryer, the founder of Design Studio Perth, and to celebrate the launch of Season 2 of the show, we are offering all our audience a free brand discovery. So if you're not too sure where your business or your brand is going or growing, use the links in the show notes below to book in a time to have a chat. Now, I have to be honest, the Real Biz Life Chronicles is on a mission to become one of Australia's leading business podcasts. But in order to do that, we please need your help. So if you do enjoy this episode, which again, I have no doubt that you will, we ask that you please like and subscribe to our channels below. My guest today has spent 3 decades in the fast-paced neon-lit world of Hong Kong before making the leap to Perth in 2023, swapping skyscrapers for sunshine. But don't be fooled, his mind still moves at lightning speed. Having founded, grown and successfully exited an IT services company spanning Hong Kong and Singapore, he knows a thing or two about building, scaling and protecting businesses. But who is he really? If you ask those that know him best, they'd sum him up in 3 words: creative, an absolute ideas machine, committed. Once he's on a path, he's all in, and opinionated, but in the best way possible. He stands by his principles, speaks his truth, and never bends just to fit the room. And speaking of rooms, once upon a time, he was a classic computer geek, more comfortable talking to machines than people. Now he storms into networking events like a Liverpool striker, charging forward towards the goal, making connections with ease. At the helm of Fuse Technology, WA's office, he leads a powerhouse team delivering cybersecurity IT solutions to the professional services sector across Australia, the UK and Canada. But he's not just about firewalls and data protection, he's about people. A connector, a mentor and a firm believer that generosity is a competitive advantage, he's always moving the needle. Whether it's sharing insights over coffee, championing small businesses, cybersecurity, or working with government bodies to make way for WA to be the go-to state for cybersecurity business operations. And if you're wondering about his sense of adventure, his theme song would be, and I'm told this from a friend, "You'll Never Walk Alone," fitting for a lifelong Liverpool fan. And I heard he has a second one, which is ADC's Thunderstruck, Thunderstruck. So he has 2 theme songs. He also climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, not just for the thrill, but to raise 2 million Hong Kong dollars for street kids in Vietnam and Mongolia. Tackling cyber threats, that's just another day in the office. And one thing I feel called to say about this person is that from the very moment I've met him, he always has a heart to serve. He always puts kindness and helping others at the forefront of everything that he does. So, Phil Aldridge, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much, Tracy. What a great introduction. I think I can probably go now. You've said everything.
Yeah, I think it's Martin to thank for that.
Right, yes. Yeah, I'll have a word with him later.
Yeah. Phil, you've lived in Hong Kong, the UK and now Perth. How has each place shaped your perspective on life and business?
Not so much in the UK. There was a little bit of work in the UK, but I left when I was 21 years old. I just didn't like the cold weather and just wasn't for me.
Yeah.
The early dark nights and, it's, I decided time to go somewhere else. And I jumped on a one-way ticket and went to Hong Kong. Hong Kong was one of those places which at the time in 91 Brits could go to without requiring a work visa.
Right.
So that was the choice. I thought I'd stay there for a couple of years and get a bit of experience, international experience, and then move on, probably come to Australia. But met my wife, stayed there for 32 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a little bit longer than expected, which is a very common theme in Hong Kong. A lot of people come, they do their 2-year stint, or they stay there for the most of their life. So I have a very big cohort of friends in Hong Kong who are sort of lifelong honkies after they left the UK, Jersey, Guernsey, US, and they've been in Hong Kong for 20, 30 years. It's a great place. Don't listen to what the media tells you at the moment. It's still a great place to live.
Right.
There's a slightly different international business perspective to the place at the moment. But if you are a young go-getter in the financial services sector and someone offers you a job in Hong Kong, you should snap their hands off. A 2-year stint, change your life. But after 32 years, my wife and I decided it was, the kids are grown up, probably time to try something else. And didn't really want to go back to the UK. So decided Australia was the place to come. And very happy I did because it's, as you said, great skies.
Yes.
Wonderful weather, nice people, good beaches. What more can somebody want?
Definitely. And Phil, what do you feel it is about Hong Kong that, that makes people stick there?
The fast-paced life. I think when you're, and I've noticed it a little bit here, things happen a little bit slower in Perth, but I think that's the case in a lot of cities. There's not many places around the world which are quite as fast-paced as Hong Kong. I think you'll find Singapore, Tokyo, New York, probably they are.
Yeah.
Maybe even to a certain extent London. There's always something going on. I always tell people that in Hong Kong, I can be out every night of the week at a party or an event or doing something.
Yeah.
And if I was in my office on a Wednesday afternoon at 4:00, I could make a dozen phone calls and I could have a dozen people in a pub for drinks.
Oh my goodness,
And
yeah.
there's not many cities where that happens.
No.
The flip side of that is if you do that all day, every day,
Yeah.
quite quickly burn out. So you've got to be a little bit careful.
Sounds like you're speaking from experience there.
Very much so, yeah.
And is that what brought you out of your shell? Because as Martin mentioned, you were more reserved as such.
Yeah, so Martin's my old business partner from the early 2000s.
Right.
And he's an outgoing go-getter, if you like, very good at networking. And he basically forced me to go out and start networking, to do business development and get out there and win business, the usual stuff that we have to do. As an IT guy, I really didn't like it. Do I like it now? Yeah, I think it's, I enjoy helping people.
I think you're great at it, just saying.
Yeah, thank you, thanks. I mean, look, you can be good at something. Doesn't necessarily mean you like it. I enjoy helping people. That's the thrill for me.
Yeah.
And I like to go out, meet people, find out what their problems are, whether it be an IT problem, whether it be a human resources problem, whether it be a home problem, and then just see how I can help them. Can I introduce them to somebody that can help them? Can I give them an alternative perspective to what they're thinking of? A lot of the time when people have got a problem, they look at it from one particular perspective. And if somebody looks at it from an outside view, you come up with a bit of an out-of-the-box thinking. And then sometimes people go, oh, I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah.
And if you help somebody, they remember. Doesn't have to lead to business, often doesn't lead to business, doesn't need to lead to business. If I go home at night and I've had a good day because I've helped some people, I've had a great day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is one thing I noticed about you, Phil. Like I said, from the moment I met you, you always lead with such value. The intention always helping others, and you just, like you said, it doesn't always result in business, but it's those things that people always remember, which in my mind does bring business in some way because they might refer you or...
I suppose, the whole sort of pay it forward concept, it's a big networking thing, but you've got to believe in it. A lot of people, I think, sometimes are a little bit shallow on how they do this.
Yes.
You know, I don't like going to networking events and there's someone going around collecting name cards.
Yep.
You know, it's kind of the worst. And you don't remember them.
No.
And you know for sure that the next day you're going to get an email from them, you know, selling their services to you. You know, I landed in Australia pretty much with the objective of making Perth the safest place for business, you know, in the internet world, if you like. I didn't want to hear from anybody that I've met that they get hacked through lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
And that's still my stated objective. It's my why. I think it's important that everybody in business has a why, not just for profit.
Yeah.
You know,
So true. So
profits,
important.
you know, you need to make money to survive. There's no doubt about it. You need to pay the bills, obviously. But, you know, profit is, you know, it's a bonus, I suppose.
Yeah. Definitely. So, Phil, you're known for being generous with your time and expertise. Who's someone who did the same for you, and how did it shape your path?
So in Australia, one of the first people I met when I got here is a guy called Ron Gibson, who you will know.
Ron, yeah.
And I would think that most people, if you're in business in Perth, you probably know Ron Gibson. I met him at a network. No, I didn't meet him at a networking event. Somebody said to me at a networking event, you must meet Ron Gibson. Sent me the introduction. I met with him for a coffee. We had a chat. He introduced me to a few people. He's invited me to a few events since then. He keeps in touch all the time. I try and keep in touch with him. You know, we understand, you know, we chat about personal life, husbands, wives, all this sort of stuff,
great.
you know, family, kids, dogs. And, you know, I just find that he's good with his time. And if it helps him, that's just a byproduct.
Yeah.
I remember when after I met him, I signed up for his masterclass, which he does probably once a month. And he said to me, he called me up after I'd signed up for it. He says, why on earth have you signed up for our masterclass?
Yeah.
You know, I'm not, you know, what am I going to teach you about networking? And I was like, oh, thank you. But the reality was I said to him, I'm going to go to your masterclass. Either you will reiterate something I know, so validate that what I know is correct. You will teach me something new, which I hope you will. And if neither of those first two things happen, you'll have 12 people in the room that I don't know.
True.
And there's a networking opportunity.
Yeah.
So, you know, why not? Give it a go. It's a bit of pay it back to him for helping me out. I go to his masterclass, add value. I've sent a few people his way who've done his masterclasses. So it's, give and take.
I'd love to know your share on networking, because I think a lot of business owners, they hide from it. I mean, marketing is different. You know, there's different ways to kind of get yourself out there. But I find as well that networking has become one of the key ways of, you know, getting brand exposure, business exposure. It's connected me with amazing people like yourself. If someone is quite hesitant to put themselves out there, what would your words of, I want to say, wisdom be to them?
I got into networking, as I said, through Martin, but accidentally picked up a bit of a trick. I was leaving the house in Hong Kong one day in a bit of a rush, and I broke one of my shoelaces. And I had nice shoes with coloured laces in them, and I quickly got another lace out of the cupboard, put it in, and I'm walking out with a pair of shoes with two different coloured shoelaces in, and I'm going to a networking event.
What year was this, Phil?
2003.
It's close to the 90s. It's okay.
Yeah. And so I end up at this networking event, and I'm a bit nervous and a bit shy, and sort of I'm talking to some people, and as usual, the conversation kind of, people run out of things to say, and then someone looked down and saw my shoes and, oh, Phil, you got different coloured shoelaces. What's going on there? And I was like, oh, you noticed. And it's just a typical thing that people do. They look down and try and think of something else to say.
Yeah.
So that became my thing.
Oh, wow.
I used to have different coloured shoelaces in all my shoes. And that's what people would pick up on. They'd notice that. I think you've got to go out. Don't be scared to go out. When you walk into a room, look for someone that's on their own. 90% of the people in the room are probably as nervous as you are about networking.
Totally.
They just probably got there earlier and managed to be speaking to somebody first. So I normally get to networking events quite early. If you're the first person there and you get a drink and you put their arm on on the table, the next person in the room comes and speaks to you. You're already networking. So it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah.
But, if there's a group of 3 or 4 people already talking, they form a circle, and that's hard to penetrate.
Yeah. Very hard.
So then you sort of have to stand there and just make eye contact with somebody.
Yes.
And when you make eye contact with somebody, they naturally kind of ask you to join them. So it's a bit of a trick. Otherwise, you just stand there on your own for the whole night.
Yeah.
So I normally look for the one person that's not talking to anybody, and then I'll find who do they want to meet, and then well, let's go and talk to Ron, or let's go and talk to Tracy, or whatever it might be, and introduce them to somebody else and get them on the journey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a great way for you to become a connector in their mind as well, because especially if they're feeling so nervous and out of their comfort zone, just by helping them meet someone else, it places you in a good light as well.
Yeah, I don't think people really remember me for what I do, because I don't very often talk about IT, to be honest.
Yeah.
I've never met anybody at a networking event who actually needs my services right there, right then.
Sure.
Because if they've got a problem with their IT, they're most likely not at a networking event.
Yeah.
They're in the office trying to get it fixed.
Sorted, yeah, makes sense.
So I just normally ask people about what they want to talk about, what they do. Some people may ask you what you do.
Yeah, some.
Sometimes people don't ask you what you do, and that's fine. I remember being told that you have 2 ears and 1 mouth, and you should use them in that proportion. So listen more than you talk. People like to talk about themselves.
They do. I was actually going to say, I found that's the secret. Like if you just ask someone questions about themselves, they just go off on a tangent.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And the other thing that I like to do is sort of read up on current affairs. When you run out of business talk, you can then talk about what's going on with the state of the economy, international politics, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
That then sort of triggers more conversations. You get to know people better through those sorts of conversations than just asking what they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Phil, what's a philosophy or rule you live by that others might find surprising?
Always have an opinion. Look, I don't really sit on the fence much. Sometimes I'll have an opinion just to get a reaction. I think if you never have an opinion on anything and you're too worried to say something in a one-to-one or a one-to-many environment, people won't remember you.
Yeah.
If you're the person that disagrees with somebody else on a particular matter, they'll remember you.
They will.
They might respect that. They might not respect that. Does it really matter? No, not really.
Yeah.
I think it's a different thing online. That's a whole different ballgame. Online, having an opinion these days can be quite detrimental to your brand, your personal brand, your life. So you have to be very careful there, I think.
Yeah, I'd agree. You have to be careful how you trade. But I think sometimes when you're so firm in your truth and what you're doing and what you stand for, even if there are a few haters or whatever you want to call it, it doesn't really matter as much.
Yeah, look, you're not going to meet everybody that you meet. You won't like everyone,
and vice versa. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I don't need to be liked by everybody. If I go to a networking event, I try to meet people that possibly will become a social friend, might become a business connection, might become a client, or none of those three.
Yeah.
And someone that falls into one of those 4 pots, that's perfectly fine for me. I don't mind. There's a couple of people that I probably haven't got on with here in Perth, but 99%, lovely people. Everyone's here for the same reason.
Yeah, very true. Phil, if you had to design a guide to life for your kids, I think it's Nathan and Larissa, is that right?
Correct.
What are the 3 non-negotiable lessons it would include?
Always do what you think is the right thing. I'm not sure whether stand by your principles probably is the same as the first one.
Yeah.
Don't argue. This is a big one. Don't argue unless it's really important.
It's great advice.
So many people I find in business or in life argue about stuff that's just not critical. what are we having for dinner tonight?
Yeah.
Which movie do we want to see on Friday? You know, are we interested in putting in a proposal for this client? You know, these things are not life-changing decisions, and having an argument with somebody about them just isn't worth doing.
Yeah.
Just find the common ground. If somebody is of such a strong opinion that you shouldn't do something, as long as it's not a game changer for you, just go along with that.
Yeah.
I see people fall out a lot over trivial stuff because they have multiple trivial things that just result in one big issue. And so I kind of tell people that I can't remember the last time I argued with my wife.
I remember you telling me this. I was like, wow.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, and some people that listen to this probably won't like it, but
that's okay.
99 times out of 100, if my wife wants to do something, we'll just do it.
Yeah.
I don't mind. If it makes her happy, then that makes me happy. The 1% of the time where I go, no, let's do this, she'll probably just go, oh, okay, that's fine, because
interesting.
99 times out of 100, I get my way. So I'll let you have that one.
Yeah.
And that just works for us. But we just find we're not arguing about trivial stuff.
No, it sounds like your priority and focus is in the right place.
Like to think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or it's
Seems to
absolute
work.
unconditional love from, from both sides.
Well, been married for 30 plus years now, so managed it for a while.
I have to ask, Phil, is there ever times though where and I hope you don't mind me asking, where your wife will want to do something and just deep down you don't want to do it, but do you just find within yourself to kind of just do it anyways to, I guess, make her happy?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, wow, respect. Yeah. That takes a lot. Yeah.
It might be, I don't know, I come home from work, I'm tired, and she goes, let's go for a run. And the last thing I want to do is go for a run.
Yeah.
But I go for a run. It's fine. It's an hour out of my life.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll sleep better. Yeah. Because I'll be more tired,
Oh, and I think, like you said, it kind of keeps the focus on core things, and it doesn't, things don't escalate, and you're not just arguing about trivial stuff, which all of us do, myself included.
Yeah, I think it's very easy to let things spiral out of control. So nipping them in the bud, and that's as important in business as anything else.
Yeah,
you've got to keep it real with your business partners and make sure that you're focusing on what's a priority and not insignificant things.
Yeah,
people often try and spend their time in business planning stuff to death, when it's just go out and do it or do something. Fail fast, move on to the next thing. Don't just try and perfect the slide deck.
Yeah.
Miss out on 5 presentations to potential clients because my slide deck isn't quite perfect.
Yeah.
You'll make 20 changes to the deck over 3 months, and if you ask someone to look at the 2 decks, they probably won't even notice the differences.
No.
Because you've changed colour, you've changed fonts, you've added this bullet point.
Or rebranded. Or
people won't notice these things.
No.
Because they haven't seen necessarily the initial iterations, so it's new to them.
Totally.
So you just go in, and if it doesn't work, you change it and move on. Yeah.
I interviewed a candidate, and he mentioned something that's always stuck with me. He said progress over perfection. So I think that's something I've really had to learn, because I'd be that one who's like, being a graphic designer by trade, my slide deck, everything has to be like perfect all the time. The amount of late nights I wasted faffing around with those sort of, not trivial, because obviously you have to show up professionally, but like you say, it's more progress over perfection, and perfection doesn't exist. So
no, it doesn't, because you can always improve something in some way, shape or form. Perfection, I think you should always aim for perfection, but understand that it's a process. And, once you get to what you deem to be the ultimate slide deck, the ultimate website, the ultimate professional services solution, realize that it can still be improved because things are changing so quickly. Aim for good, aim for great, and accept good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I struggle with accepting good. I still want great.
Look, if you're a subject matter, if people perceive you as a subject matter expert in what you do, you haven't got anything to worry about, unless you're in a room full of branding agents, or I'm in a room full of IT security professionals. I'm the expert in the room.
Yeah, definitely.
No one challenges me on something I say about IT security. Yeah, they might think something and they might be right, but very rarely will someone say it. So it's like when you do speaking gigs. Another way of getting in front of lots of people is to put your hand up and say, "I'll speak at the next event."
Yeah.
Put a slide deck together, talk about the subject that you're an expert on, And so if it was networking, I'll say, "Ron, you do it." If it's IT, I'll do it. And then you're the subject matter expert in the room. People are listening to you. No one knows better than you.
Yeah.
So you don't need to be worried about messing it up necessarily. I won't say no one would be the wiser. They might notice a mistake.
Yeah.
But the majority of people sitting down are the sort of people who would not want to be where you are talking.
Yeah.
So there's a respect garnered right there.
Yeah,
the fact that you're up there
happens.
talking. Yeah.
Definitely. And I'm glad you raised that point, because I think from the bit of public speaking I've done, I tend to overthink it so much. I think on my first presentation I did, but like you say, there's that natural respect that's given anyway, and no one really knows what you're going to say anyway, so you can kind of, even if you mess up, you can still wing it. So.
Yeah. There's people who do their PowerPoint presentations and they have lots of notes.
Yes.
Literally what they're going to say. So they're kind of reading their notes. I can't do that because I'll fluff my lines. So I just have bullet points and I talk about the bullet points. And if at the end of the presentation I go, I forgot to mention that. As you said, no one knows.
Phil, what's a challenge in your personal life, if you're of course comfortable to share, that shaped how you show up in business?
Challenging personal life. The hardest thing that's happened in my personal life is about 4 years ago, my daughter was just starting uni and she got an eye infection and lost the sight in one eye. I was in Hong Kong. She's in the UK. This is during COVID.
As well. Oof.
There's no flights. Can't fly her into Hong Kong for treatment. It was a really, really stressful time. I'm trying to run business. I'm trying to keep the family together, trying to help my daughter, and she was in a lot of pain. That was a tough one, a really tough one to get through. And I think you realise then, even in a situation like that, there are people way worse off than you are, in much more dire straits. Her eye's a lot better now. It's still not great, but it's so much better now. She can see out of it. That's all good. She's still doing great at uni. But that was a tough one for me to work through. A really difficult time. And but yeah, keeping it real and understanding that there's a billion people worse off than me for that in that situation. Yeah, keeps me grounded, I suppose. I could just fall to pieces. Yeah, quite easily.
Definitely, because you're in a situation.
But then you go, well, what about those people there? Crikey, they haven't got a house. They're in a war-torn, society. Whatever. So that was the one, I suppose.
And I guess, like you say, it keeps it real as to, whilst that situation is really difficult, there's a lot of people worse off, and we're so blessed as well. Yeah, we're kind of lucky, and I think I often use the phrase first world problems. Yes. People complain about things and you go, yeah, first world problem. Yeah, there's, it's not really a problem. It comes back to small arguments. Yeah. It's, if we're arguing about what we're having for dinner, do we go for Italian or Japanese? Yeah. Come on. There's people who, can we get food for dinner? Yeah. Did we have food for dinner yesterday? No. Very true. That's a whole different perspective. Completely. Yeah. So definitely. Phil, so what has been your hardest letting go moment in life or business, and how did it change you? Letting go. Letting go of... So as a business grows, entrepreneurs are shockingly bad managers in general. Sorry for any entrepreneurs out there. It's okay, no offense. But we tend to like to dictate what's happening and control the narrative. And I find that as my business grew in Hong Kong and Singapore with Martin, you get to a point where you can't be the one doing everything. So you have to delegate.
And delegation is a very tricky thing to do because you've got to allow people to make mistakes. And I think that was the my big learning curve in business was let people do stuff. If they make a mistake, discuss it, find out whether they agree that it was a mistake. Was there a better way to do something? But if you constantly, if somebody comes to you with a problem and you just give them the answer, they're always going to come to you with problems.
Yeah.
So I had a boss, an American lady back in the late 90s, and she just said to me, never come to me with a problem. Just come to me with a solution to the problem that you want to discuss.
Smart.
And I'll let you know, which solution she would go with, but she wouldn't force me to go with any particular solution, unless it was clearly detrimental to the business. But there's more than one way to skin a cat.
Yeah, of course.
So for me, it was allowing people to make mistakes and not getting upset about it. And sort of that delegation process was the toughest thing to learn how to do.
I agree. And also just not, like you said, if someone has an issue, not just fixing it for them because they constantly just come back. There's an article that my advisor shared with me. It's about the monkeys, and it's about people putting their monkey on your back. It's a great article. Sounds a bit dodgy, but if they're constantly just putting the monkey back on your back, well, then you're carrying these monkeys around all day. So you have to teach them to look after their own monkey, feed it, all those sorts of things.
Yep.
Otherwise, by the end of the day, you've got a whole stack of monkeys on your back, and it becomes really hard to function from that point.
Yeah, in small business, you go home at night and you're thinking about the business at night.
Always.
And you wake up in the morning and you're thinking about the business. And really good employees often do the same thing.
Yeah.
They go home and they're thinking, and in the morning they come in and they go, hey, I was thinking about that problem last night and I was thinking we could do it this way. What's your thoughts? That's what I like.
Yeah.
It's not always about the 9 to 5, Monday to Friday.
No. Phil, so if you could sit down with your younger self for 5 minutes, what's the one thing you'd tell yourself that he wouldn't believe?
Probably that I climbed Kilimanjaro.
Yeah, I'm so impressed. Well done.
Yeah, I would think that was not. I never thought I'd be able to do something like that.
Amazing.
That was quite a. It wasn't just me. I mean, we were 20 people from Hong Kong.
So much fun.
Mainly from Hong Kong, a few people from overseas, all with a sort of common interest to raise some money. And but that took best part of a year of practice.
So I've heard, yeah.
Lots of
tense.
Lots of hikes up and down the hills in Hong Kong. If anybody thinks that Hong Kong is a concrete jungle, it's 95% national park and some of the best hiking in the world in Hong Kong.
I didn't actually know that. Wow.
Yeah, you can walk out the back of the main city and you can be in lovely national park in about 10 minutes.
Beautiful.
So we got 1,000, 1,200 metre high hills. So we'd go and do the hills, and we got some professional trail walkers to do the hikes with us. It was quite hard work. I gave up alcohol for a year to do it as well.
Right.
Combination of doctor saying, cut back on the alcohol, and me going on, I need to take the hike seriously.
Yeah, because it's a whole other level of fitness.
It's, and people sort of talk about altitude sickness and relate it to whether or not you're fit. And it's just not, altitude sickness will affect different people. You could be the fittest person and get it really bad.
Oh, really?
You could be the unfittest person and never suffer from it. So certainly some of the fitter people in the group struggled more than some others.
Interesting.
Yeah. And it was, I think the last day of the hike was the hardest, and it normally is because you're right at the high altitude. And I remember sort of we got to the top and we just started walking back, and one of the guys in the group was talking to me. And about 5 minutes later, I turned around and I looked at him. I said, "Oh, I didn't realise you're here." And he's like, "I've been talking to you for 5 minutes, Phil." And that was the moment in my brain when I realised I needed to get off that mountain quickly.
Yeah.
Probably in hindsight, should I have been that high? Probably not.
Is it called bends? Is
The
it
bends, yeah.
Yes, I read about it.
Yeah, I think it's similar to, not too sure, but maybe similar to sort of scuba diving bends and stuff like that.
Oxygen levels, drop.
Yeah.
bad.
So it was that was a difficult one. And on the way down, once I was feeling okay, we're about halfway down the mountain, I had a can of beer, Heineken or Carlsberg, I can't remember. And I was drunk after one can of beer. High altitude, haven't drunk for a year, one can of beer.
Pickled.
Yeah, so that was...
cheap date.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, what was the reason you chose to do the climb?
So Martin's father-in-law was the chairman of a charity. And we decided we wanted to raise some money. What can we do? What's a challenge that we were all interested in doing? You know, most of the guys had run marathons before. I hadn't. So it was what do we do? Oh, let's climb a mountain.
Just.
Which one? Oh, I don't know. Let's not do Everest. And there was probably some discussions about whether we should do base camp of Everest because that's quite high, or some of the other circuits around which are really quite high as well. But then we thought, let's just go and do that one. It's one of the 7 peaks, I think, the highest peak in Africa. I think that's right. So we just decided we're going to do that and put a program together, started raising money, and it was good fun. Yeah. Mainly. I did get down though and say, I'm never doing another mountain.
Marathon then, hey?
So I did a marathon instead, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Phil, something that comes to my mind just hearing you speak is that you are very selfless. Have you always been that way?
I don't know if I think of myself as selfless. I mean, I like to help people.
Yeah.
I enjoy helping people. As I said earlier, if I go home at night and I won't go home to my wife and say, oh, I had a great day at work because we did this and this in the IT world. But I might go home and say, oh, I helped someone, they had this problem, and we'll discuss it and I'll tell her what happened, and she'll go, oh, that's really nice, it's good. Yeah. So I just find it more interesting. IT is boring. Cybersecurity is boring.
I do
AI
agree,
is
but
boring.
necessary.
I think a lot of the time people in an industry find their industry not necessarily interesting. Because you're in it day in, day out. And when you're doing something day in, day out, how exciting can it be? I probably think branding is way more exciting than IT.
I love it. Yeah, I get very excited by it. So.
Yeah, I've just been doing it for too long now. I think it's yeah.
I mixed it up with the podcast, so it keeps it fresh. Phil, you've built and exited a successful business. What's one belief about success you had early on that you've now completely realized you've changed your mind about?
One area of success that I've changed my mind about. The profit isn't everything. You used to sort of look at the books and go, right, I need to make more money. Yeah. Might be slightly different now that, once you've exited a business, you've got a bit of money, that maybe the profit isn't quite so critical. But I think when you're profit driven, you don't necessarily do the right things.
Agreed.
I find it fascinating, for example, that, the CEO of Coles and Woolworths and these sorts of big corporates are hauled in front of a commission to explain about price gouging and ripping off the Australian public. And I'm pretty sure the last time I looked at any shareholders agreement for any organisation, it probably says that the responsibility of management is to maximise profits for the shareholders. Yeah. Now, unless there's a clause in there about ethics and morals and, doing the right thing as well, which, I don't know, I don't think all the companies have that. But profit is important. Making money is important because you can't survive on losing money.
No, it's expensive to be alive.
I think if you do the right thing for people, if you help people, you'll either be a successful business or you'll be a successful person. And I think either of those is a good place to be for anybody.
Definitely. I'm really glad that you share that, because that was a big shift for me that happened probably a couple of years ago. I guess, when you first start, you've left your job, you're trying to make money, and that's your main focus. But something Paul taught me was to really, you can always, you add value and you serving someone. It's not just about that invoice or about that profit that you're making. And I find that it's completely changed my business, just having that core intention of serving and how can I actually add value to someone's life, as opposed to this is the invoice, this is what they're paying me, and this is the profit I'm making. It was a very big flip in the way that I've operated and functioned as a human. It's been a massive game changer.
Yeah. The why. I mean, we mentioned it earlier. The why of business.
Yeah.
Having that, and if the why is to help people, great. I work with one client who I help them order desks and chairs.
Yeah.
Why? Because they don't have anybody in the office to do that for them. And I know somebody who does desks and chairs. So I just help them do that.
Yeah.
Is that part of our IT contract? Absolutely not.
No.
It's doing the right thing.
Yeah, and I also think something else that I've noticed in people who really lead well and are great business owners, just having that core of being kind and really helping each other.
I think you can read a lot of leadership books, and I tend not to, but a lot of them will talk about how to be a great leader.
Yes.
You must do this. You must do this. I think it's just really simple. Just be honest and be nice.
Yeah.
Maybe that could be my book.
Yeah.
Be honest, be nice, and
Do
then
it.
just leave the 100 pages in the middle of the book blank. Yeah, and that's it. That's my book. Yeah.
Oh,
Should
great
do that. I
idea.
wonder if I can find a publisher for that.
Yeah, well, I know a designer. We can design it for you.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying. Phil, what's the moment in your business journey that completely changed how you lead?
I know interesting. I know exactly this point.
Yeah.
This will be about 2006 or 7, I guess. I had a senior engineer working for me, and so we have pay scales in the company, and he was at the top of the sort of senior engineer pay scale, and the next position was assistant manager. So we thought, well, need to promote him. You need to give him a pay rise. We need to promote him. So we made him an assistant manager. And after about 6 months, I called him in and I said, look, it's not really working. I don't see that you're managing the people.
Yeah.
What's wrong? And he says, you didn't give me any tools. You didn't explain to me how to manage. He says, I'm an engineer. You promoted me. I didn't ask for it.
Yeah.
And I have no skills on how to be a manager. And I sort of went home that night and I was a little bit deflated, and I thought, wow, he's so right.
Yeah.
That was, you just think that people can do something.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time people in organizations that you meet are in positions because they've inherited them, not because they're the right person for the job. They were just the other person in the company that needed a promotion.
Sure.
And a lot of the time, leadership, no one teaches leadership in an organization, or very rarely anyway, and people don't teach how to be a manager in an organization.
No.
You have to sort of get external help for that. I can probably do a better job now, but back then it just never even occurred to me that I hadn't given him the tools to be successful.
Yeah.
So I think that was the moment when I realized, think before you take action and make sure you empower people to do what they're supposed to do.
Completely. And I find sometimes I'll be so focused on what the goal is of what we're doing. And then my team, obviously I briefed them. This was a while ago. There was an incident and I was wondering, why are they just not getting it? And obviously had a meeting. I realized I'd not given them obviously some of the tools or some of the information. I was like, oh my gosh, Tracy, you're so lost in your own head that you didn't even give this vital information to your team so they can actually do their job properly. So that was a big eye opener for me, to always make sure that whatever's going on in my brain, I'm sharing with my team. They have all the information. It's not just up here and I'm expecting miracles. So,
and a really good way to understand that you've been successful is to say, so now that I've told you all of that, what have you heard?
Yes.
Tell me back what you think I want you to do.
Yes, that's powerful.
I think people, I'm not quite sure what the stat is, but it's something like people remember 30% of what you've told them.
Yes.
So if you tell them a lot of stuff, they're going to not remember a lot of stuff. So I think it's important to get them to reiterate back to you what they think you said.
Definitely, 100%. Phil, if you had to start a new business tomorrow, completely unrelated to IT, what would it be and why? Besides your book?
Damn. What business? Yeah, look, I think the networking space is pretty well handled. I think there's a big gap in the market for business advocacy to government. Governments make a lot of decisions that impact businesses, especially small businesses, which are 98% of the economy or something like that globally. And they make all these decisions. I don't think they consult the business community enough. I think there should be more lobby groups focusing on small business to advise government. And I think government should be required to listen. Not a government-sponsored thing, but something that that business puts together to lobby government for what they want. There's not enough of it happening. It's often left to the chambers of commerce and the business associations, which probably isn't their core focus. They're probably focused on putting on events and getting good speakers.
Completely.
Advocacy and policy is done properly, can be a big enabler for small business, I think. So I'd probably do something in that space.
And Phil, perhaps if you could please touch on how it is that you work with your clients at Fuse.
How do we work with our clients? We work very well with our clients.
Oh, good.
All of our clients are super happy.
Naturally.
I like to think anyway. Look, I think this is about, as it is with any company, it's probably about the trust and the relationship. You've got to get trust. So if I go and meet a company who's got an incumbent IT provider who they trust, I probably won't win the work.
Sure.
Because they're not going to give me the work. Unless they have to lose the faith and the trust in their current provider before they'll move to you. Then you've got to take away all the pain points. You've got to make them believe that you will fix the problem seamlessly, on time, on budget, and then you've got to deliver it. So winning the project is one thing. Delivering it to all of those criteria is another thing. And if you are successful in doing all of that, you will build trust and then they will continue to work with you. So IT is a little bit like accounting, legal, corporate secretarial services. People are scared to move those providers because they don't really understand what it is that provider does for them necessarily or how they do it.
So true.
So they're nervous to move. So you've got to take away all the barriers to entry, if you like. Make them believe that it is a seamless process, that there's nothing to worry about, that you will work with their current provider to transition. So it's all about trust, I would think.
And do you feel that, any business needs some sort of cybersecurity, of course?
Look, you're going to find some businesses where it's not necessarily required. A 3-person tradie firm probably might not. They might have emails. They might not. They probably don't store sensitive data. So should they have multi-factor authentication on their emails and their personal emails? Absolutely. Should they have a PIN code or a thumbprint on their mobile phone? Yes, definitely. But a high level of cybersecurity protection? Probably not. If you're in any supply chain or you're a professional services firm or you have a regulator or you have governance documentation to say that you should do something, or you're an NGO, then it is really important that you do cybersecurity properly. It's my daily conversation with people to do it properly. Everybody thinks the cloud is secure and safe because it's Microsoft, it's Google, it's Amazon.
Apple.
It's Apple. They're super secure. And I just say to people, they can be super secure if you make them. But out of the box, Apple's probably the slight outlier on that one. Apple is relatively secure out of the box. But the others you have to make secure, which requires configuration and is what we do, I suppose. And, the people that do it properly are the people that don't get hacked.
Yeah.
May get hacked if someone wants to spend $1 million trying to hack a small accounting firm, they might be able to be successful.
Yeah.
But you've got to weigh up there $1 million versus the value of the data they're going to get. Probably not worth spending the $1 million, so they're not going to do it.
No.
I remember someone I know from South Africa. He had a business doing ethical hacking for banks, and he would get paid to try and hack in.
Yeah.
And he said, given an endless amount of money, pretty much anything is possible.
Jeez.
So, yeah.
And the fact that he's South African.
He may have exited that company now, I don't know. Yeah.
Well, in my conversations with you, and I don't know if I'm right in saying, it feels to me or sounds to me like what you guys, especially your approach, is so much more than just about IT. It really feels to me like you take the time to get to know someone, how you can add value, how you can help as well.
If you don't understand someone's business, how can you implement the right tools or give them the right advice? And as I said earlier, it's not just about the IT advice. He's not a client, but he was someone I met a little while ago struggling for a member of staff. And I just went out to my network and said, does anybody know someone with this skill set? Someone replied and went, yeah, I know somebody. So put them in touch.
Yeah.
I think the offer was made for employment, but maybe the person didn't accept it.
Sure.
But it's about what you can do for people. People remember the things you do for them that are outside your scope of what you're contracted to do. Everybody thinks you should do what you're supposed to do because you're contracted to.
True.
Yeah. And they are paying for a service. So when you go outside of the box,
The norm.
yeah, for scope, that's what they will remember. So if you are if you decided to go and do a seminar, a lunch and learn event at one of your big clients for all their staff about personal branding, people will go, oh, not contracted to do that.
Yeah.
Probably not going to get too much out of it other than the satisfaction of teaching people about personal branding. And then the bosses of that company go, oh, yeah, that's why we engage with Tracy. That's why. Stuff like that.
It definitely does work. So something that I do constantly looking at, especially our social media clients, always having a look like obviously what we're doing for them, but if they perhaps got a VA or an assistant, whatever the case may be, making sure, like I become a pro stalker, just making sure, I do not just admit that, but whatever that person is doing, like is the logo in the right place? Is the photograph centered? So I'm a bit relentless. Like I'll like screenshot and text people and be like, just by the way, please make sure so-and-so aligns this up, because for me, it's just that next level of care and just making sure that their brand aligns with their business. I'm a bit pedantic, but I just feel like it's my duty to do that, in some ways.
Yes. Well, if you send somebody a contract with typos, or you put the wrong company name on the first page of a proposal, or your figures don't add up, how can you build trust with that client?
Yeah.
Yeah. Networking is about trust and likability. If people trust you and like you, they will want to do business with you.
Yeah.
It's the same with hiring. If you're interviewing somebody, within the first 30 seconds, you can determine whether or not you think you like the person, and from that, whether or not you think you trust the person.
Wow.
Very quickly, you can determine those two things. And that will very often, you've already made a subconscious decision as to whether you're going to employ them, because you won't employ someone who you don't think you trust and like.
True.
And that's the same in business in general. I don't think I've got any clients who don't trust me.
Yeah.
And I think they all like me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Slightly different. Yeah. Those two things are quite different. But I believe so, yeah.
And Phil, what is something cyber criminals do exceptionally well that businesses should pay more attention to?
Fake emails.
Yeah, some of those are pretty good.
Yeah.
Hey, they look so legit.
I think it's the biggest risk to business. The days of someone trying to hack into your office has gone, because almost no one has an office these days.
Yeah.
And if they do have an office, there's nothing in the office. It's all in the cloud. We used to have an office where everybody went to, and we all used to have to work there. And if you weren't in the office, you couldn't access anything because all the servers were there in that sort of that mythical room in the corner.
Yeah.
Then you moved to having people working off-site, and they had to connect back to the office through VPNs and stuff like this. And then the stuff in the office moved to the cloud, which is probably where we are now. And so everyone's a digital nomad. Everyone can work everywhere.
Yeah.
And what you get now is you get all these emails coming in, and you've got all these people with their own devices, or they're using their home computer, the one their kids use, or they've got an old computer at home that they might use for business. And the email comes in from the CEO, the accountant. The CEO sends you an email. Hey, I need this money. It's quite urgent. I'm in Egypt, and could you send it over? I need it by tomorrow morning. And it's 5:30, and you're supposed to be doing something, picking the kids up or taking the dog for a walk or whatever it might be. They put urgency in the email, and then you make the mistake. You make the payment, or you click on the link, or you do something you're not supposed to do.
Yeah.
And in business, I think too much emphasis is put on training staff to avoid making a mistake, because we're humans.
Yeah.
We'll make mistakes.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Always. So what we try to do at Fuse is to set up systems so that even if the staff clicks on the button and makes the mistake, nothing actually goes wrong.
Right.
Because we block stuff. And
right.
If you're just training your staff not to make mistakes, it's unless you've got an amazing staff who never make errors, you're probably going to have a problem at some point.
Yeah, also there being like a constant state of fear, because like, oh my gosh, if I do something wrong, then I'm going to, get in trouble or whatever the case may be.
Yeah. I mean, there's a flip side of that. If everybody knows that they can't make a mistake, they then get complacent and they just click on anything. Now, I had one boss who would deliberately, this is before it was really serious, but he would deliberately click on things in emails to kind of cause a problem.
Oh.
And I'd be like, well, why did you click on that? He's like, well, why not?
Oh my goodness.
And I was like, well, that just wasted 2 hours of my life. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for that.
But yeah.
If cybersecurity were a movie, what would the plot be, and who would play the main villain? I'm so glad you laughed, because I was trying to hold that in.
Yeah. Look, I think there's been plenty of movies about this.
Yeah.
Actually. And look, then I was at a webinar, a seminar the other day talking about disinformation, misinformation, and state threats. And whenever you see a disaster movie or some sort of end of the world movie, it is always the North Koreans, the Russians, the Chinese.
Always.
They're always the threat. Is that the case? I don't know. I mean, yes, there are bad state actors around for sure. That's 3 of them, depending on who you believe.
Yeah.
I don't always believe everything I read in the newspapers these days.
Same.
But I would probably argue that those states that we believe to be friendly are as bad as the ones that aren't friendly. It's just that their motives may be slightly different, but they're probably doing the same thing.
Yeah.
They're trying to get a benefit for their country at the detriment to another country. We put a blind faith in all these friendly countries to not do the wrong thing.
Yeah.
I don't know whether that's the right. I think we should assume the worst and protect against everything, not just protect against that or that.
Yeah.
And then you'll be safe. Totally. Yeah. Who would play the lead actor? Was that the next?
Yes, it was. If cybersecurity were a movie, what would the plot be, and who would play the main villain?
Yeah.
For some reason, I'm thinking of that character from Despicable Me. I don't know why.
Yeah. Groot.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he kind of plays. Yeah, he's a good villain. The plot would be, and well, it's already a movie, but the plot would be that AI or a state actor just stops all the technology in another country. Yeah, it's someone runs all the EV cars off a cliff, lock the doors and runs them off a cliff.
Yeah.
Or blockades the city centres or whatever it might be. That sort of thing. But again, all those movies have happened, and I find them quite fascinating because a lot of the time it's quite believable.
Yeah.
People go, no, that couldn't possibly happen. Pretty sure it could.
Yeah, definitely. If you could hack one thing in life, not just tech related, what would it be?
Hack?
Like if you could hack something.
Oh, the bank can give me a few more $1 million. Probably illegal, but, it's, yeah. I don't know. Hacking. Ethical hacking. I think it's good to try and, I think companies that think they're safe should get someone to try and hack them.
Yeah.
To make sure that they are safe. I come back to the blind faith in people doing the right thing. Everybody believes their IT provider is making them secure, but you probably should verify that with somebody else. We have someone we work with that we ask to look at our clients. We tell our clients they're secure. Could you please check to see whether you agree?
Back it up.
And 9 times out of 10, they'll find something. And they probably should be finding something, because if they haven't found something, they've not done a good job.
Yeah.
Yeah. All you hope is that they find something really small. Yeah.
And Phil, it sounds to me like you've hacked the secret to, a long marriage. That's incredible. Is it 32 years?
32, yeah.
Yeah, with Winnie. I think
need to get that right now, 32.
Oops.
Yeah.
Sorry. Put you on the spot there. That's not many people can say they've been in a marriage that long.
No, it takes a lot of work and effort. As I said, the premise was, don't sweat the small stuff.
Yeah.
Which I always thought would be the title of a book.
A great one, actually.
But I also, the flip side of that is when you've got kids, your relationship is just all about the children.
Yes. So I
it's just all encompassing. You talk from when you get at home from work to when you go to bed. All you talk about is the kids, generally speaking.
Yeah.
And you very often don't have holidays on your own. We were privileged. We had a domestic helper in Hong Kong. Everybody has one. Yeah. So it's lucky. They take them to school, bring them back from the school. So it allows, us to have a bit more freedom, I suppose. Yes. Not everybody is in that sort of luxurious position. But the other thing that we did was to make sure that we have things that we do together outside of kids, whether it be hiking or running or cooking or swimming or whatever it might be. My wife and I did a marathon together.
Amazing.
And then she went and did a second one, which I couldn't go on because it was an all-women's marathon, which I didn't think was actually allowed, but apparently it is allowed.
Right, fair enough.
So having things to do so that when the kids grow up, you don't sit at other ends of the sofa watching TV and go, who's that stranger?
Yeah, so true.
And I think a lot of people, so we always had date night.
Oh, great, yeah.
Always tried to anyway. So Friday was date night, go out, do something, go to a movie, have a meal, just to try and keep it real.
And make time for each other.
Yeah, yeah. So those are the two things I think that have helped me in that particular relationship.
And can you describe an ideal day where business, family, and personal fulfillment all come together perfectly?
I don't have to go to work because everything works perfectly okay and no one sends me an email and no one calls me. So I know that the business is running smoothly without me. I go to a networking event where I just help some people, meet some people, help some people, and then I get phone calls from my kids at night to just say what's going on in their day or their week. That would be a perfect day.
Yeah.
Doesn't often happen. Yeah. Normally I have to message the kids and go, how was your day? Please remember I'm here. But that would be an ideal day. One without stresses from business, which is Not easy.
No, of course not.
As every small business owner knows, you sweat the business. So that'd be ideal.
Yeah, it's that stress factor, right? It's like a whole nother level compared to like being employed or, it's very full on at times.
Yeah.
But like you've said, having those, things that you do with your partner or those things in your life that kind of keep you, I want to say grounded or balanced, don't back this, but yeah, really helps.
Yeah. And I think the other aspect of it is don't take everything home with you as well. Don't go home and just brain dump all your problems to your partner.
Yes.
That's not healthy.
No, it's a lot for them to carry as well.
It is because you're just assuming that they haven't had problems with themselves that day, and they have.
Yeah.
So go home and ask them how their day was. Yeah. Anything you want to chat about? Was it all good? And if they ask you about your problems, then you can go in here. Then they've opened the door.
Flood.
Yeah.
Phil, at the end of your amazing life, what's the one thing you hope people say about you, not your business, just you?
Oh. So like on my gravestone sort of thing.
Yes, sorry, it's a bit dark and gloomy, but yeah.
Well, yeah. Here lies Phil. He was a nice guy.
Yeah.
That'd be it.
Yeah, perfect.
Be very happy with that.
And what's one thing you still want to achieve that most people don't know about?
I still want to do another marathon.
Oh, there's one in April. Would you like to join me?
No, not ready for that. I'm hoping to do the 3-country marathon in Q3 next year.
Oh, cool.
It's, I'll get the countries wrong now, Switzerland, Germany and Austria. It's around a lake.
Oh, amazing. So it goes in all 3 countries?
Yes, yeah.
Very cool.
I'd like to do that. Don't think I've told many people about that yet. My wife knows because she's going to plan it for us. But yeah, so that's something I want to do. I think keeping healthy mentally and physically is key. I see when people quit work and they don't have other things to do, often there's a rapid decline in.
I've noticed that as well.
In their body, their brain,
their spirit,
and it's so. I think you've just got to keep going at stuff. Do I want to? Can I retire when I'm 65? Yeah, I'm 67. What's the age now? 67, I think, for men.
I think
yes,
so.
Absolutely. Do I want to? Absolutely not. What will I do then? I'll just help people more without having to worry about it.
Phil, before we sign off, have you got any final words of wisdom, perhaps for a business owner who is, maybe going through that hard sort of growth phase? What would your words of wisdom be to them?
Surround yourself with successful people that have not people that you're paying for advice necessarily. Yeah, of course, I think there's always a space for business mentors, coaches, etc., whether that's personal or in business.
So true.
But having people who are willing to give you advice based on their successful experiences and to understand the mistakes that they made. That's the key. Getting people to tell you how not to do things because they did it that way and they messed up, that's as valuable as them telling you how to be successful.
Yeah.
Surrounding yourself with people who will give you advice without expecting you to pay necessarily for it. I think that's key. Every business should have people like that, like a mentor group.
Yeah, definitely. And Phil, where is the best place for our audience to go should they wish to connect with you?
Oh, any networking event in Perth, pretty much.
Actually, that is true.
I should probably be there. No, look, I think you can just go to www.fusetechnology.com, email me at phil.aldridge. That might have to come out in the subtitles so you can know how to spell that, at fusetechnology.com. And look, if anybody is in Australia or in Perth, I'm happy to meet with people that want to discuss business, have a chat, get advice. It can be about IT, security, AI, exiting a business. I'm happy to talk to people because I like meeting people.
Yeah.
The more people I meet, the more I learn. And that's what I want to try and do.
Well, I highly encourage you to take Phil up on that offer because I have been called the networking queen, but I think you're like the networking legend. So I think you rank above me. So
No, I don't think so. No.
You're way too modest, Phil. Anyway, thank you so much for everything that you shared today. And I really appreciate the time that you've carved out of your day for us.
Thanks for having me. It's been an absolute blast. Loved it.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks, Phil.
Thanks.